Mm, 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 mm. And we alive. Yo, peace. What up? What up? What up, y'all? It's a two-time ATL's hottest DJ, the God DJ Agony, also known as Dr. Dope, in the building, dropping in on y'all on another Wednesday, 8 o'clock or 8 something o'clock for another quick 30. I told y'all it was coming up, and it's the one we've been waiting on for like the last week or so. About top 10 black shows better than Friends. Now, before I jump into the list, uh just kind of throw around a little news. Everything's good on my end. Just anybody that's in the chat or watches this later, just drop in the chat. How you doing? How's your Wednesday? We're in the middle of the week. It's the hump day, and nothing better than to be a good distraction than to tune in to DJ Agony and a good quick 30. You know what I'm saying? Quick 30 is like I said, where I jump in 30 minutes or less, just give my thoughts on a certain issue or certain topics, or my favorite top 10 list, because you know growing up watching Letterman, top 10 lists were always one of my favorite things. Big shouts out to all those that did it before me and did it at a high level. I'll be there one day. I could have myself mentioned among the Lettermans and the Dennis Millers, Howard Sterns. Hopefully for sure. But yeah, I chose the NWO dope shirt tonight in remembrance and tribute to the late great Scott Hall, who passed earlier this week. Like, if you was a kid and you watched wrestling, Scott Hall was like, he was either your favorite dude to hate or he was your favorite wrestler, period. But nonetheless, like, we'll never get another Scott Hall, Razor Ramon. We'll never get that back. So big shouts out and RIP to Scott Hall, because he was a legend, man. He's a legend. He was a legend in all our childhoods if you grew up watching wrestling. hmm So we rocked the dope NWO joint tonight in tribute. Um, So let's go ahead and jump into this list. Now, what qualifies these shows to be on this list is that they had to be on TV around the same time Friends was on. So Friends ran from 1994 to 2004. So if any of the shows fell into that 10-year gap and they were good, that's the big thing. They had to be good shows. So I got a top 10 list. There are going to be a couple of spots that are going to be shared just because there's a couple of shows that I couldn't take off, but I couldn't leave this one out either. So they had to make the list. So there'll be a couple of spots that are shared. And I'll just give you my feedback on why which show made the list at what position. So, number 10, starting off, number 10, Family Matters. Now, I know it's probably some wrinkled foreheads right now. Like, man, why Family Matters so low? Here's why. Family Matters started off a great family sitcom. Great family sitcom. But in the same way that JJ took over Good Times and it took away from the whole family aspect of it. It just really turned into watching JJ and waiting for the one liners and the dynamite. That's the same way that Urkel took over Family Matters. After a while, people weren't going home to watch Family Matters. They were going home to watch Urkel. And when one character gets that much bigger than the show, it takes away from it and then it start getting over the top. So Urkel has this machine to where he goes into his alter ego Stefan, and then he does that a couple of times. That's cool, but then he goes into the machine and turns into Bruce Lee one time, and Carl turns into Bruce Lee. Then he turns into Elvis, and then him and Stefan somewhere or another split into two different people. That was crazy. It just got over the top and really strayed so far away from the source material that it was like, this ain't even good. This ain't good at all. Yeah, I'm not there with it. I just wasn't there with it. So, but nonetheless, Family Matters did have a good, what maybe I'll say the first three, maybe four seasons that were still Family Matters. So for that, that's why it still made the list. I still have fond memories of those early seasons, and that's why Family Matters is at number 10. Number 9 was a show, it spoke to me personally. Number 9, Smart Guy. Anybody remember Smart Guy? If you don't, I'll just tell you about it. So The real life twins T and Tamara had a real life little brother, and he played on the show to where he was a child genius in high school and he's in public high school with his older brother. Now, me and my brother didn't go to high school together, but there was a time when I was in high school and having been to private school before, I got a couple. I got somewhat ahead of the curve for my age, to where I was in the ninth grade at 13 taking 10th grade classes. So I'm in there with 10th graders, but I'm only 13. We talking about what I'm saying, they're you know 16 at this point, but we sitting in the same class together. And so it's one of those things. It's like being a young nerd is awkward. Being young is awkward. Being a nerd is awkward. Being a teenager is awkward. And then having your peers that much older than you is also awkward. But Smart Guy was cool. It had Omar Gooden and Jason Weaver, and I like Omar Gooden and Jason Weaver, so that helps. Essence Atkins was his older sister. And it was cool. If you go back and watch the show, most of her friends are like, you know, at least A and B list actresses now. I mean, Taraji was one of her homegirls. Gabrielle Union was one of her homegirls. Like, she had a nice little crew of homegirls coming through there. And it was all kind of fun too. So, big shouts out to Smart Guy, man. That was definitely one of my favorites. Now, number 8, I know I'm gonna catch some heat off this one, particularly how low it is on the list. But y'all, just hear me out on this one. Number 8 is Martin. I already hear y'all grumbling and cussing now. Go ahead and get it out. Y'all finish? Oh, y'all still cussing? All right, well, y'all gonna cuss a little lower. Just let me finish up. So, reason why Martin came so low is that Martin ran for 5 seasons, but I don't know a lot of people, including myself, that uses this sentence. Man, I can't wait to go catch the rerun from season 5 of Martin. You know why? Because after season 3, Martin hit the wall hard. Like, the show was bad. It was they were just trying to just trying to hold on at that point. There were some decent episodes. Martin Steele's cracking the one-liners, but in real life, him and Tisha Campbell had their issues to where, season 5, they rarely shared the screen together. And so with that, it's like it took a lot away from the show. Plus, having being older now, going back and watching Martin from the beginning, still had to be the world's worst boyfriend. Like, he is the ultimate how not to be as a boy. Like, this dude was horrible. Like, you got your boys there at the house. One, you got your boys there at the house. You and your woman is supposed to be back and forth in no way. It's like, look, we either gonna wait till they leave or settle it, or they got to go and we'll settle it now. But Martin putting on the show in front of his boys, going in on this woman. So then she got her homegirl there. Of course, she ain't finna just take this shit. So she start cracking on him. And it was like, y'all putting on the show for people. Like, I don't know. I'm just not wired like that. Like, our issues or whatever we got, it needs to stay within just us. I don't we need to be talking to mamas or homegirl or anything about it. We keep our issues in house, and actually, that's just what it is. That's just what it is. So I don't know, between him being the ultimate worst boyfriend and the fact that after season 3 the show really hit the wall. Martin, yeah, it was funny. He had one-liners out the ass. He had iconic episodes. There's still some episodes now to where it's like, yo, Martin was bugging on that. That shit was crazy. I mean, the whole thing with the CD player and them recreating New Jack City. Like, you can't, like, that's something that can't be recreated. You can't do that again. Martin got the stuffed dog. The dog falls over. He tell the dog to stay. He sit the dog up. It falls over. He talking about something. Now play dead. And meanwhile, you look in the background, Tommy, Cole, Pam, and Gina are cracking up to the point to where they're breaking character. They got to keep looking down and keep from showing that they laughing because Martin was on one that night. And from the characters, I mean, Stan, bruh, man, like, they had good characters, but all in all, as an overall show, Martin is number 8. It's number 8, and that's fine. I'm with it. Number 7 is one of those shared spots. Now, these were some, how you would say, mid-tier shows, not a lot of superstardom wrapped around them, but at the same time, they were both really good shows. The first one is 101. I like the whole dynamic of having a single dad raising a daughter. Now, being a single dad is already just it's an anomaly unto itself. But he's not raising a son, or he's not raising sons. He's raising a daughter. So now it's like it's almost like and not only just a daughter. It's not like she's 6. Like no, we talking about a preteen to a teenager. And mind you, at the time, Flex, when his daughter moved in, he was like a playboy in the city. You know what I'm saying? The show set in Baltimore. He's a playboy in the city. You know, hey, one show up Wednesday. By the time she gone, it's another one coming up the driveway. You know what I'm saying? So now he can't be out there in front of his daughter as a playboy. Like he has to tone his own act down so that he can lead by example and show her, hey, this is how not to be, while at the same time trying to teach himself this is how not to be. I like that dynamic. I really do. And Flex and Kyla Pratt play real good off each other. Um the next show that's sharing the number 7 spot is Everybody Hates Chris. I'm a big Chris Rock fan. Real big Chris Rock fan. And one of the things about this show that I really like was the narration. It's like the older him is narrating around the time for the younger him, and it's telling the stuff that a lot of times we think but can't say because of the situation we're in. And also, it really deals on some real life facts of how Chris Rock moved here from the South, lives in Brooklyn, but is in bus to a white school in a white neighborhood. Like, yeah, it was the '80s, but racism still existed in the '80s, believe it or not, y'all. Yeah, racism ain't went nowhere. It was there in the 1880s, 1780s, 1980s, 2080s. Well, let's hope it won't be around in the 2080s, but we'll see how that plays out. So Chris Rock narrating his younger life, and the sarcasm of Chris Rock is just ghetto gold. So, Everybody Hates Chris was one of my favorite shows, and having Tachina Arnold older now, she's not Pam anymore. Now she's his mom, and she's playing an older character. That was cool. And his pops, the fact that his pops is cheap as hell. You know what I'm saying? Hey, boy, you left 17 cents worth of Kool-Aid in that jar. You pull that out, get rid of that. That was funny as hell. And then also him having the younger brother who people treat like the older brother, like grown women is hollering at his little brother, and people is assuming the little brother is the big brother. Go figure. But Everybody Hates Chris was a good show, man. Moving on to number 6. Number 6 is another one that shares a slot. Both family oriented shows, both led by great actors and great comedians of their time. The first one is Parenthood. Robert Townsend might not have been the coolest, but then again, when you get to that point in life and you get to that age, what dad really is. I mean, we start getting lame after a while, y'all. I try to stay as cool as possible, but I'm like 90s, 2000s cool. I'm not 2020s cool because I like wear a belt and my pants fit on my waist and my pants actually fit. They're not all extra tight and my shirts ain't tight. They're not extra tight either. So and I wear Pumas because they're comfortable. So yeah, I'm not 2020s cool. Um, you know what? Forget that. I'm dad cool. Yeah. So Robert Townsend, and what was cool about the show was that he had a teenage son and daughter, and they're traversing teenage life with them. Um, Very attractive black wife. Big shouts out to Suzanne Douglas. R.P. to her. She's beautiful. And then you got the two little kids to where it's like, okay, it was almost like the Cosby dynamic. We got the teens over here dealing with teen stuff. We got the little ones dealing with little kid stuff. Still got this fine wife, and it was cool. Like it was a dope show. Wasn't a lot of drama per se. I mean, yeah, there was stuff that happened because I mean, in a family of four, well, no, I mean including him and his wife, that's a family of six. There's plenty that could happen. And having two teenagers there, it's a lot that could happen. So, Parenthood was a good show. It was real Cosby esque. You know what I'm saying? Tried to keep a positive spin on things, and even when something negative happened, we're gonna put a positive spin on it. Parenthood, man. Parenthood was dope, man. It was good TV. Sharing the number 6 spot with Parenthood, the damn Bernie Mac show. He told y'all in 2000 on Kings of Comedy, America's scared of me. They're scared to give me a show. So America said, we'll try it out. And the Bernie Mac show was probably one of the best sitcoms of that time period. Big RIP to Bernie Mac, man. Yo, he wrote that show until he could ride it no more. And he left us doing that show. But just having to deal with that. Now, mind you, he gave us a snippet on that in Kings of Comedy about raising his sister kids, but now we get a whole sitcom wrapped around it, and these kids are off the rails, like they off the chain for real. And he has to stay sane, maintain a career, and keep up with these badass kids. Like, I mean, this is. But you know what? It's one of those things. I used to love his confessionals on that show. America, you see what they're trying to do to me, America? They're trying to kill me. Baby girl, she done turned on me. Nuts out here acting crazy. What I'm supposed to do, America? Like it was ghetto gold, man. Like yo, big shouts out and the RIP to Bernie Mac. Um, I love the show. I love the show. Definitely could have been much higher than that on the list, but there's so much more coming. But Bernie Mac was definitely a great show. And moving on to number 5. Now this show had comedic elements in it. Probably one of the most, if not the most positive show of the 90s. That's Rock. Rock was a great show. There's no subtitle, parentheses, or anything to go with that. Rock was a great show. Period. It was it dealt with some parts because mind you, if we look into the early to mid 90s, a lot of stuff that was going on in the hood, they were, it was more hood movies coming out then, and they were starting to be glorified by people who weren't there. Rock showed us that even in the hood, there is still regular 9 to 5 people. Rock was blue collar. You know what I'm saying? Like Rock was a garbage man, a proud garbage man. His wife was a nurse. These were service people. They were not rich. They were very middle class. He had a talented but can't get right brother that lived with him. And then he had his pops living there. That's one thing that, what I'm saying, we don't do enough of, or we don't show enough of. But it's like, we got to take care of our old people, y'all. You put them in a home or leave them at their house somewhere. Ain't no telling what's going on when you ain't there watching them. Rock took care of his old people. He had his dad right there in the house with him. You know what I'm saying? That was cool. And then the whole thing with him and Andre the drug dealer. It's like Rock went at this dude. Rock wasn't on no he wasn't on no shit where it's like, oh well, they sell drugs in my neighborhood, but it ain't affecting me. Yes, it did because it was his neighborhood, and he decided to take the stand on that. So, like I said, the most. If we had a list of positive shows of the '90s, Rock would definitely be number one, like no bar none. It was a great show. It got taken from us sooner than it should have, but when you have too much black positivity on at prime time, not enough shucking, not enough jiving, yeah, those shows won't last. Those shows won't last. But big shouts out to that show, Rock. Big shouts out to Charles S. Dutton for the idea. We thank you. From my generation to you, I thank you. I thank you personally. Mm. Now, moving up to number 4. Number 4 was for sentimental reasons. And not necessarily sentimental, but this show really got me through some rough times. I remember at a time when I was unemployed, really no direction, couldn't figure out just what the hell I wanted to do with my life. And for whatever reason, though, my internal clock was set to wake up when this show came on and it stayed on for an hour. And then after that, now I got the rest of the day to try to figure out my life. That's the Steve Harvey show. Um, this Steve Harvey show is one of those shows to where I can watch every episode from the pilot to the finale. I could watch every episode of that show, and it's just as funny as it was back then. Um, Merlin Santana, i.e. Romeo, him and Bullethead, as far as side characters, were freaking hilarious. Cedric the Entertainer as the homeboy, um, Principal Greer. I mean, we got Tasha Mack as a principal. You know what I'm saying? Like this is pre Tasha Mack, obviously, but she's the principal, and now he has to work for her after them being kids, him joking on her, going up to be a big celebrity, and then come back and he got to go to her to get a job, and she don't look like Piggy Greer no more. She was fine. If you ain't seen the show, trust me. I mean, y'all seen Wendy Raquel? What is it? Wendy Raquel Robinson? Yeah, she fine. She was fine. It happened. So I mean, and the Steve Harvey show, man, it was just so much comedy that came out of that show, from the whole dynamic with Sid and Levita, to where he found his ghetto love match. Steve and his adventures through dating, to where toward the end of the show, him and Principal Grid eventually end up dating. Like I said, Romeo and Bullethead finally trying to just be two knuckleheads to make it out of high school. Like Romeo and his dating escapades. Like this, there was so many dynamics. I keep going on and on about the Steve Harvey show, but Steve Harvey show was great, man. I really had a good time with that one. And one of these streaming networks need to go ahead and post that up so I could binge that weekly. Because that's a show I would watch right now. If I could find it, I would watch it. Anybody in the chat know where I could find the Steve Harvey show streaming? Jump in the chat right now and drop that. Or when you go back and rewatch this, drop that in the chat. Where can I find the Steve Harvey show? Let me know. Number three. Now we getting into the top three. We getting into the real meat and potatoes of this list. Number three, Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Yeah, I remember being a kid watching that episode, watching that pilot, and was just like, "Yo, this show is freaking cool." And I don't think I missed an episode for the next 6 years worth of Monday nights. And it was cool because it came on at 8, and wrestling didn't come on at 9 till 9 at the time. And then by the time it got canceled, wrestling started coming on at 8. So I'm like, okay, we're good. I can still watch Fresh Prince. I can still watch wrestling on the same night. Boom. Okay. Um, it was dope. I mean, the whole concept, taking the kid out the hood, moving him in with his rich aunt, well, his rich aunt and uncle, and them really trying to show him, like, a better way of life. Like, you can obtain this and be just as successful if you keep your head on straight and listen to the people who did it before you. And we'll struggle with that through the whole show because he just wanted to be him. And we get that. We all want our sense of individuality, but at the same time, though, these people were rich. They might have knew something you didn't know. It might be in your best interest to listen to these rich people. Just might be. It was hilarious. One of the cool things about Fresh Prince was that some of the women that he dated on that show, my goodness. I mean, from Nia Long to Jasmine Guy to Tisha Campbell to Kim Fields. I mean, he lied about marrying Kim Fields just so he can get her in bed. And then she punched him in the face. So yeah, don't lie to get a girl in bed because you can possibly get punched in the face. You know what I'm saying? So big shouts out to Fresh Prince. And I hadn't seen the reboot yet, but anybody that watches this, if you've seen the reboot, tell me what you think about it. Drop that in the chat as well. Tell me what you think about the reboot of the Fresh Prince because I hadn't seen it yet. I'm hearing mixed reviews, but it's one of those things to where eventually I'll see it. You know what I'm saying? So so Fresh Prince is at number three. Number two is one of those shows that we should really honor and pay homage to this show as much as humanly possible. Number two is A Different World. We have a show that is set at a HBCU campus, starting from season two. Season one, okay, the writers were less HBCU ish, but season two, we got Debbie Allen, who's a Howard grad, writing the show. The show's, I mean, and who better to tell about an HBCU experience than a graduate? So it was supposed to be the spinoff to the Cosby Show, but Denise fell off after the first season. Then they wrote her back in the Cosby Show like she had dropped out. Which, if you watch either show, she had a thing with commitment. But there's that. So the characters. I mean, you got Jalissa, who is the non-traditional student. She's going back to school after a divorce, 20 something years old. You got Whitney Gilbert, who's the debutante. Kim Reese, who comes from the blue collar family, but she's in school to be a doctor. You got Ron. Ron's the playboy, and then my personal favorite character. You got Dwayne Wayne, the math nerd. He's cool in his own kind of way, but nerdy at the same time. But Dwayne was dope. Like Dwayne was definitely dope. He definitely gets the dope seal of approval. You know what I'm saying? And one of the things, if y'all go back and watch that show and notice, when everybody was graduating undergrad, Dwayne was getting a master's. You know how they showed them all graduate together? Yeah, Dwayne was getting a master's by the time they were going undergrad and they were figuring out what they were going to do. Dwayne was already teaching at Hillman, trying to figure out what was the next thing he was going to do because he was already big at that point. Like he was definitely on his way. And we're talking about a young black engineer in the early 90s. And these are the images we get to see on TV. So that let little kids know, particularly young black kids, young black boys, young black girls, that hey, being a math nerd is cool. Because by the end of the show, Dwayne Wayne had developed a whole video game based around mathematics and baseball. Different world, man. It was definitely one of a kind type show, and yeah, we'll never get another one of those. At least not from that angle. It'll never be that positive again. My number one show, and the reason why this is my number one show. Now, on this list, this show would possibly fall to like number six, but because I'm naming top 10 black shows better than Friends, what better would be the number one show than the show that Friends stole from? That's right, Living Single, number one show because Living Single was much better than Friends. It was the original. They stole all their ideas from there, and then next thing you know, Living Single gets canceled. They went through some changes toward the end of the show, and it was one of those things to where, uh, what do we do? You know what I'm saying? So my thing is this right here. One of my favorite characters on the show, Kyle Barker. Kyle Barker made me want to be a stockbroker. I ain't gonna lie. Kyle Barker was the coolest guy on the show. How he dressed, how he could talk to women, and how he was paid being a stockbroker. I was like, yo, I think I want in on that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's like taking the whole math nerd to another angle. It's like had Dwayne Wayne not went into computers, but went into investments. You see what I'm saying? And then the whole dynamic with three friends living together, three black women living together. Yeah, there was levels of drama, you know, but at the same time, there was never anything to where these women couldn't talk it out, work it out, and then stay friends with each other. So big shouts out to Living Single because that was the top 10 black show better than Friends. Um, and without it, there would have not been a Friends. There probably wouldn't have not been a Sex in the City. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things. When we do it better, and then they take and borrow from it. Okay, I'm lying. They just steal it. So there's that. Anyway, appreciate everybody for stopping through tonight on this quick 30. We're around the 28.5 minute mark, so we're about to go ahead and wrap this one up. Big shouts out to everybody, and thank you to everybody that tuned in, liked, shared, subscribed, commented, but most importantly, came through to the Dope Show and enjoyed themselves. It will not be a show this Friday, but I will catch up with y'all next week and then give y'all the rundown of where you will see DJ Agony again. Until the next time. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery that mediocrity to pay to greatness. I am DJ Agony. This is my quick 30, and I'm out. Peace.